circling this cross with the 46 symbol imprinted to the floor. We've seen something similar to this back in episode 2. He takes a closer look at the thing and notices 5 signs, which read: Alexander's security guard anomaly, the man-winged cap anomaly, subject 113 conspirator wandering, 072216 failed executor wandering, temp_0.23 traitor anomaly. Now, as of right now, we don't know the context to these 3 messages, but we do know these names. Based off the numbers matching the version, subject 113 is the person we saw back in episode 23, and 072216, aka Andrew. Subject 113 is referred to as Conspirator, the same Conspirator 6/2020 mentions to also have ties with the Reflection, which explains how this person knows the Reflection and why he's trying to help Andrew. He is the Conspirator, and it seems that they know Andrew and the Conspirator have left their worlds. But moving forward, the sky almost immediately becomes pitch black. As he's lighting up the area, he finds another set of signs, specifically warp signs.
Andrew, they're coming for you next. Don't become like us. Fight. Fight like hell.
Andrew starts freaking out. Then, as he slowly hovers to the sand, he drops it. We've seen Andrew resist being controlled by the sand, and if dropping the sand was an option, you would think he would have done it by now, which means something isn't right. How was Andrew able to drop the sand from his inventory? Before we could figure out, Andrew begins swinging his sword rapidly, then heads over to the cross and starts mining it. But before the video ends, we get this. What Andrew had found was the organization's temple, the structure they used to pray and express their belief, and Andrew at the very end had been compromised. But now, what happened to the Conspirator? Have they been caught? And who's this person that's communicating to Andrew, and why is their sign a different color from the rest? As of right now, we don't know, but what we do know is that this screech of audio that we hear at the end was put into a spectrogram, and this is the image that we're given. At first, we don't really know what to make of this, so I checked out the comments for some help, and I find this reply. It is his face. At first, this seems a bit ominous, and I was going to brush past it thinking someone was trying to play into the ARG, but I decided to click on the channel and found one video. What I find won't be spoiled because I might use it later in the video, but let's just say it's definitely related to Andrew Games. Someone in the comments asked, wait, how many channels are there that cover the Andrew ARG? Another person replies, for now 4, but they will grow more and more. After some digging, I find the 3 other channels the commenter is talking about. The Palladium, 46 Intel, Doomstriders, and including Andrew Games would make it 4. Now, I won't go into too much detail with the other channels right now, but when I checked out channel 46, I noticed their banner. If we compare this face to the spectrogram, we see they both have circular glasses, a shadow on their cheek, and the same smile showing their teeth. Judging from the message saying it is his face, and the face being represented on the banner of a channel called 46 Intel, we can assume who we're looking at is the face of the 46 organization. And if that were true, they would formally be known as 6/2020. As we head into episode 26, this won't be the last time we see this face, and these channels will become very important. We're now watching from another player's perspective. This world seems to be on a super flat world. The player eventually finds a house in the middle of nowhere. He picks up 2 roses and continues inside. He takes a look around the place and drops 2 roses in one of the rooms. Everything seems normal until we get this. Now, at first, a lot seems to be going on. Before I continue with the text appearing on screen, first, let's take a look at this eye that we see in the first few frames, which we can tell is the same eye we saw back in episode 3. But this image that we see is from a place we've seen before, back in episode 6 when Andrew was introduced to the 46 world. Now that we've got that out the way, let's figure out what these texts mean. No more, I know what you're doing. This elaborate project of yours, we don't know who's talking, but we do know who they're talking talking to. This elaborate project of yours can help us figure out they must be talking to 6/20/20, the leader. He mentioned 6/20/20 put his brother in this simulation, all because he saw through. We're then given context to the project green text is talking about. It seems his brother saw through 6/20/20's project, called The Place. Although it's not a clear image, keep this in mind because we will come back to it. Now you're mourning your parents, as if you wouldn't have done the same to them. We're given no context to what might have happened to 6/20/20's parents, but then green text says something really interesting. You made this channel. You put Andrew in a little simulation of a popular game, a place within a place, all to keep everyone away from the reflection. He's the one man you can't stand to see live. We're given these two facial expressions that may be intentional to wording, all to keep away from the reflection, and 6/20/20 has this cocky reaction, and when he says he's the one man you can't stand to see live, his angry facial expressions indicates his true feelings about the reflection. We still don't know the reason why 6/20/20 has such a grudge against the reflection, but then he mentions Andrew. Why would he be worried about what happens to Andrew? Unless this is Andrew's brother the green text was talking about. Moving forward, he says, I'm going to make sure you have no peace. I will be your personal hell as long as you continue to play God and manufacture that place. Then 6/20/20 replies, I am no evil man, which he responds with, tell that to I. Most likely this I that we're seeing. Then we're given the Doomstrider's PFP at the very end. 21 episodes later, and the I is brought up again. What is its purpose, and how come when 6/20/20 says I'm no evil man, Andrew's brother tells him to tell the I that, as if the I knows something? But right now there's no way to tell what this I knows, and as we head into episode 27, we'll start to understand more about this place. We're now in version 6. As Andrew heads over to the 46 area, we get this weird moment. There's a text that says, welcome 072216, which is Andrew. Then we hear a person talking, but we can't really understand what they're saying. Once the video cuts back to normal, Andrew heads over to the obsidian area. There he sees a sign, Ender Creeper 07 equals the Palladium. Then text on screen appears saying, don't read that, and the sign is broken. Back in episode 9, when Andrew found the book, we established that the Palladium and the Reflection were the same person, since the book was signed by the Palladium, and in the book they refer to themselves as the Reflection. But now if we're told Ender Creeper is the Palladium, would that mean all three of these guys are the same person? Maybe the Reflection does this to keep himself hidden, which would explain why in episode 12, when one of the agents realized Ender Creeper broke into the Iteration, they said, who the hell is Ender Creeper 07? The Reflection most likely does this to keep his identity hidden. With that out the way, we'll have to continue to episode 28, which takes place back in version 5. We're watching from one of the agents' perspective. There's a conversation going on in chat, and before I show it, there's some words that will be switched around to understand what they're talking about.
Andrew has entered the frame.
How?
Well, ever since we started pruning the manifestation _S113 code to try and trap the conspirator, broken chunks are beginning to appear in infinitely repeating sectors. That's how Andrew entered the frame. Too little of the manifestation was erased to allow for a normal crash, resulting in this iteration's anomalous behavior.
Where has the conspirator fled to if he is not in his intended world?
He found an exploit to cross into Andrew's world. That explains the hole in the 46 symbol.
Then erase version 5.
We have agents in there doing cleanup right now. We also just can't it's the parent iteration. If we deleted Andrew and the conspirator would either be transferred to the mainframe iteration or be booted from the system entirely. Right, which would be very dangerous because they've already found ways to communicate to one another outside the simulation. This second layer is the safeguard keeping them out of the Reflection's reach.
I am the one who will burn this place to the ground.
If we were to kill Andrew and the conspirator, they'll become like them. Wait, what? Andrew just disposed the sand. Disposed it? Threw it out of his inventory straight into the void. Our code shouldn't let him do that.
Send agents now. He must be pruned again.
Let's go back a minute, shall we? We hear a voice in this clip that says, "I will burn this place to the ground." This voice is the same one we hear from last episode. We're looking at what seems to be the aftermath of the structure we were shown back in House.avi. The conversation is about the agents figuring out everything that happened in episode 24 and 25. We also get some information confirmed. We find out that the conspirator did in fact travel to Andrew's world to communicate with Andrew, and how dropping the sand wasn't something that was normally supposed to happen. With that out the way, in episode 29, we're given context to these weird moments, and this is where things start to get really intriguing. Episode 29 is short and takes place in the 46th dimension. We're watching from an unknown POV as they approach the room we saw back in episode 6 and 8. They start placing TNT in the room, then they write something in chat and send it, which reveals their name, the Palladium, aka the Reflection. As the TNT is about to explode, we get this. We're given context to the strange clips that would appear in episodes 28 and 27. We can also assume that the person who said "I will burn this place to the ground" is the Palladium. It seems that they found the 46 crew and in doing so decided to blow all of their stuff. With that out the way, we can move on to episode 30. The title explains the video. Andrew wants to go into the Nether. He mines the obsidian blocks on the ground and makes himself a portal. But when he enters, he's teleported to this bedrock tunnel. As he heads deeper into the tunnel, he sees a series of signs.
You're not supposed to be here.
Keep going.
Andrew, stop now before it's too late. Before you're like US. The conspirator and the Reflection both know this.
And after taking a look at the dark, he decides to head back to the overworld and destroy his portal. Now, we don't know what would have happened if Andrew had continued into the tunnel. The only thing we get is the sign saying "Stop now before it's too late, before you are like us," which could mean anything. We still don't know who the warp sign is, but we get another sign telling Andrew to keep going. But this tunnel storyline would continue for a few more episodes. In Purified Hallway, Andrew heads over to his house, but when he enters, the floor is completely gone and he falls to the bottom. We can see another tunnel. This time it's just red blocks we've seen before, but colored green and named Block Purified. Upon entering are another set of signs. It's still the person writing in warp signs, but we also have another person speaking, S113, aka the Conspirator. They tell Andrew he's going to get saved by the Reflection and one day this place will be destroyed. Once he gets to the last sign, the tunnel ends and leads to the chunk error, presuming that they want Andrew to jump in there. Before doing so, he takes one last look of the place. There's two messages that appear by 6/20/20. Don't listen to the signs, destroy the signs, Andrew. We can tell this is 6/20/20 because it's in red text just like House AVI. Andrew begins breaking the signs, but the closer he got to the exit, the more staggering his screen became. But then he starts dropping all of the sand from his inventory before it ends. And in episode 32, the video continues from where we left off. Andrew is now in version 7, but he got his sand back in his inventory. The signs he collected are gone. The green blocks have turned back into the 46 blocks. It's obvious what's going on, and there's a reason I call these red blocks 46 blocks. The 46 Intel logo has red coming out of it and is primarily known for having these red blocks, while Doomstriders on the other hand have their logo as green, which would explain these green blocks. These tunnels were secretly made by the Doomstriders in an attempt to help Andrew to escape, but once 46 Intel found out they were being infiltrated, they changed the version and erased Andrew's memory of everything that happened. There's a ladder that he climbs, and once he reaches the top, the floor is back to normal, like none of it ever happened, and it seems like Andrew doesn't even notice as he heads back home. But as soon as he enters, As of right now, this is everything we know. There's two organizations, 46 Intel, which contains 62020, some developers, temps, and agents, the bad guys. Then there's Doomstriders, which contains this unknown person, the Conspirator, and the Reflection, the good guys. The Doomstriders are trying to take down 46 Intel. More specifically, they're trying to destroy the place, the thing where everything happens, where people go to die or become stuck in a simulation forever. But the one person who can stop all of this is the Reflection. 62020 tries everything in his power to avoid anyone from coming in contact with the Reflection because he knows what he's capable of. But their attempts to help Andrew escape are useless. Every bit of progress they make always restarts because they can wipe Andrew's memories anytime they want. But I did notice that Andrew does this thing where whenever he remembers something familiar, he writes it in chat. And in episode 31, when he sees the name S113, he writes it in chat because he knows he's seen that name somewhere before. We also saw that in episode 9 when Andrew had this slight urge to hit Control V, even though he had his memories wiped of copying any chords down. Episode 7 when he decided to start digging around where the chunk area used to be, and the list goes on. Andrew should have his memories completely wiped, but it's moments like these that show that bits and pieces of his memories are still there, which gives hope that Andrew will start to remember more and more, and resetting the versions won't be enough to wipe Andrew's memories. But with that out the way, it's obvious we'll see more of the Conspirator and the Reflection. But a question I do have is in episode 31, when they mention to Andrew that the Reflection will be here shortly, in the next episode it ends with the black figure appearing. This could be the Reflection, but there's no way of telling. With that out the way, we must move on to episode 33, Compromised by Reflection. This video is only 52 seconds long. There's a sign on the symbol that says, "We have since been compromised by the Reflection." Around 20 seconds is when the video cuts. We get a message saying this is not a test, and another message telling us to watch a YouTube video with this URL, which takes us to a video on the Palladium channel called The Project. This video takes place where we always see the agents at. There's a conversation going on between two people, Nick and Alexander. Alexander is curious as to what's in the fusion shaft room and is upset that they don't get to know, considering they've been loyal since the beginning. He breaks into the room and we get this.
What in the hell is this?
What is what?
Nick, you know anything about something called The Place?
I've heard it mentioned in passing. Why?
Oh, Nick, I think my worst fears were right all along.
What do you mean?
Then we hear who we can assume is 62020 saying, as we hear Alexander gasping for air. Then there's blue text saying you're in the place, and this is the rest of the video.
It has been ever since you sent my brother there to die. So you think you can rob me of my own blood? 46. You sealed your own fate by creating it.
It's clear episode 33 is not for us to watch, it's for the agents. There's a message saying the Reflection has been compromised, that it's not a test, and gives them instructions to watch this video about 62020's latest project. This whole episode gives us context to House AVI. This person, which for now I'll call Doomstriders, mentions about his brother that saw through 62020's project. And in this video, Alexander saw through 62020's project, which could mean Doomstriders is Alexander's brother. 62020 tells his mother that he took that man's child for neglecting her, which we can only assume means this child must have been his sibling. This is the first time we hear of an Alexander, and we don't know what purpose he serves in this story at the moment. One thing for sure is Alexander has been put in the place, this hellhole that only serves to people, and there's two people next on that list in the description of the video, Andrew and the Conspirator. It seems they're running out of time. Andrew needs to escape this simulation before it's too late. The sign has changed to "Stop trying to see something new." Andrew replies with "Why?", then enters his home to see a green and blue wall with signs on them. "Keep fighting, Andrew. Don't give in. Take the item in the chest, but don't do anything with it. Inside, he's given an unknown item. He places it in one of his chests and takes the wool blocks outside his house. He writes to each of them, "I feel like I remember you. I've seen someone like you." Andrew might be right. These green and blue wools may represent someone we've seen before. The creator uses colored text to sort out different people. Like how we know 62020 is the red text. This green and blue text is most likely who's communicating to Andrew. In the next episode, Andrew gets a response. "It's because you know me. I don't know you. I don't think I do. It's because he's already seen you. Who has seen me?" He then heads over to the symbol where the sign has been changed to because there's nothing to find. And then there's fire all around him, scaring Andrew. He then writes, "What are you? Who are you? What is going on? Who am I?" It seems Andrew is becoming more aware of his situation, which they start controlling him to calm him down. The next episode, Andrew stares off into the sunset. He checks the signs for a reply. "You may not right now, but you will. I don't know who you are. The one who sees everything." Sees everything? He then starts checking out his house, but notices something strange underneath. He takes a closer look, and there's a room with a chest in it. Inside, it is a book by the Palladium.
Not all hope is lost. He can't see everything. He is no god. I know you don't know who you are right now, but I promise, once we get you out of here, you and the conspirators' ties to me will strengthen. We will find a way to destroy this place, this horrid nightmare. Me being alive is the reason it still exists. I am his sworn enemy. I never knew why, but we can make him regret what he's done. What he did to Alexander, what he did to the man with the winged cap, what he did to the temp. All of it, paid in full. No wrongdoing will go unanswered. 46 will fall. You must wake up, Andrew. 072216. You must wake up.
The reflection says 62020's hatred for him is the reason this place exists, but it seems the reflection himself doesn't know why. The entire conversation throughout the past 3 episodes is them trying to help Andrew understand that his memories have been altered. In episode 39, we get a different video. We can tell from their hand we're watching from the Palladium's perspective. They stare into a black moon before opening a book and quill, and we get this interesting moment. On the surface, there's not much to decipher until we realize there's something going on in the captions. Opening up the transcript gives us a jumble of letters and numbers, but if we take every number and rearrange them from 1 through 11 and take only the right side, it gives us a secret YouTube video. It's named 1009. We see a player shaking in fear with a book and quill in their hands. We can see the moon is red and black, and this video is uploaded on the Palladium channel, which means we're watching from the Palladium's perspective. While the video goes on, there's text on screen. "No one's coming, just accept the void. You're not home anymore. The moon was blackened once again." Then at 110 into the video, we get this strange noise. At first, I had no idea what this meant. The audio was too muffled to understand what they were saying. But after 20 minutes of trying to figure it out, my friend Pentar suggested to Shazam it, which is a tool that identifies music playing around you. And when I did it, it almost immediately led me to a song called Exit Music by Radiohead. Now, I can't play the song, otherwise the video will get copyrighted, but I decided to watch it thinking I wasn't gonna find anything. But then at 38 seconds, there's this part that sounds awfully familiar. So I decided to put both audios into my editing software and line up the clips, and you'll hear the reaction me and my friends give to discovering this.
It's literally.
Today, we escape.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Wait.
Bro. It's goddamn beautiful. It is. It's
Wait.
just.
It is. That is it. That is it. This is it. What the? Okay, so today we is. What the fuck? I didn't think I was gonna get that. What the? Now, going back to the video, I think things are starting to make more sense. The conspirator mentions to Andrew that the reflection can't save them because he's under a black moon. This is what they meant. That's why they tell the Palladium/reflection to accept the void and that no one's coming. 6/20/20 has the reflection trapped, but these words, "today we escape," could mean the reflection will escape this world, and when he does, he'll get Andrew out of this simulation. In pumpkinpatch.avi, things get a bit interesting. He goes outside to see the signs are gone. What happened? Where did you go? He then sees a torch he's unfamiliar with, and when he checks it out, there's another torch that leads him to a bunch of pumpkins. He mines them, and right before the video ends, we get the figure. This pumpkin saga continues into the video's description. We're given characters to a YouTube video by the Palladium from 8 years ago. The video is named 28 Pumpkins. The comment section has the Palladium and Andrew replying with the number 28. In the video, the Palladium collects 28 pumpkins, and in pumpkinpatch.avi, there's 28 pumpkins. There seems to be something going on with 28 pumpkins. Nothing else happens throughout the rest of the video, but this rabbit hole goes deeper once we look into the description with another video named 28.
Why 28 of them?
I'm not sure.
Is he trying to recreate the good old days?
Maybe. I think all of it haunts him, angers him.
He knows what he lost, and more importantly, what the reflection didn't lose, and then projected that envy on Agent 081798's brother.
Man, that's a number I've not heard in a long time. Still can't believe he went under our radar like that. He was in our midst, all to frame a temp for a document.
What did he do with it?
He did what all traitors to this agency do.
We find out 28 pumpkins have a meaning to them. It's to recreate the good old days, which would explain this video by the Palladium from years ago when he was just a child. They set this up in Andrew's world because they know the past angers the Palladium. They did this to taunt him because 6/20/20 knows what the Palladium didn't lose, and according to the agents, he then projected that envy on Agent 081798's brother. Remember this name. Apparently, this brother framed a temp for a document, which is interesting. Where have we seen a temp and a document related with each other? Maybe in episode 10 when we see this person delivering a document. Then in episode 13 when they explained the temp betrayed them and was punished for it. What are the chances this is the temp that was framed for a document? And if so, why would the brother do this? According to them, he did what all traitors do to this agency. Right now, we don't know what this means, but as we head to the final parts of the videos, we'll get our answer. Andrew opens his chest to see the item. I never go into detail about this strange item, but all we need to know is that they give this to him because it's the one item that can help him escape this place. He grabs it and begins heading out. They start trying to take control of Andrew, like he's doing something he's not supposed to, but Andrew fights back. Moments later, he arrives to the world border. When he tries to interact with it, he gets pushed back, so he decides to walk up to it with the item in his hand. When he respawns, he's in version 7_1. This time, his item was taken from him. He still never gets a reply, so he just wanders around his world alone until the video ends. In the next video, he's given a new message. Andrew, I told you not to use it yet. He enters his cobblestone dome and it seems to have changed. There's black wool inside and a black block with red text on it saying welcome 072216. He checks it out confused for a bit before he ends the video. This item was Andrew's only hope in escaping this simulation, but once he decided to use it when he wasn't told to, it crashed his iteration and they had to make a new one, which caught the attention of 6/20/20 and he saw that he had something he wasn't supposed to have. This could mean Andrew lost the only thing that could help him escape, but we'll have to see what happens next. These next 3 videos will be into one big video because we're given context to a lot of things.
Did he ever get that document?
The one for the project.
Yeah, a temp was supposed to deliver it to the project room by today. It should be here.
I don't remember seeing anything in the logs.
Oh God, that's how we get compromised.
Do we tell him?
I don't know.
I will.
Okay.
Where is the death?
What do you need?
I talked to 62020. He said that the temp should be placed into that broken iteration as punishment.
But that version is extremely broken. I don't think he understands that doing that could create another anomaly.
Just do it. Orders are orders.
Alright, fine. You bastard. You purposefully withheld the key for the project room from the temp, didn't you? So the temp would misplace the document and you could frame him for being a traitor and retrieve the document. Do you know what they did with him? They put him in a broken iteration of the program. He's gone too. He got punishment he didn't deserve. Also, you could get what also you didn't deserve.
As if Alexander deserved his punishment. And what are you going to do? Report me. He won't believe you. Nobody will.
All this time I've been trying to keep the iteration and the subjects in order. You've been distracting me. Where is the damn document?
It's gone.
What do you mean it's gone? Where did it go?
You know, I especially wanted that document for a reason. Documentation on breaching any iteration through a normal .jar file. Brilliant.
Be very careful with your next words.
I didn't want them for myself. I gave them to someone we are brainwashed to think is the enemy. The reflection sends his regards.
What happened to 102117?
Forget about confidentiality. There's no reason to protect Nick's identity anymore.
His name is Nick.
Yeah, you know who that is, right?
Who?
Agent 081798 from years ago. Alexander's brother.
Wait, what? Alexander?
The eye watches everything. His first victim. Now it watches unceasingly. That's why it's the only thing he fears.
It turns out the temp who we thought was a traitor and was punished was actually framed by 102117 so that he could retrieve the document and give it to the reflection instead. When confronted about how someone got punished for something they didn't deserve, he mentions Alexander getting a punishment he didn't deserve. Why would he bring that up? In another episode, the agent says there's no reason to hide his identity anymore and says his name is Nick. Does this name sound familiar?
Hey, Nick. Nick. Oh, Nick.
Nick knows Alexander. Not only that, but we also find out they're brothers and Nick was referred to as Agent 081798 from years ago. That's why in the Pumpkin episode when they said 62020 projected that envy on Agent 087198's brother, aka Alexander, Nick knew his brother got an unfair punishment and realized that the reflection wasn't the enemy, which is why he says someone we are brainwashed to think is the enemy. It's interesting to see if Nick will play a role in helping Andrew escape, but as we get closer to the end of the series, we'll hopefully get an answer. In Murder.avi, we're now in version 7_2. Andrew heads outside and things have changed. We're presented with 4 new characters. We see the blue and green wool, but next to them is a magenta wool. Then there's a red wool and a pink wool with a skull on top. And over to the left is a cyan wool with blocks above it. When he stares at it, the screen goes static. At first glance, it's hard to understand what's happening. We've established that color text depicts certain people, and in this case with the red block, we're looking at the red text, which we know is 62020. He's standing next to a dead body. We can assume the red fence sticking out is his bloody hand. Who's someone we know that 62020 has taken the life of? That's right, Alexander. This area seems to be telling a story. These 3 people watch 62020 murder Alexander. Although we don't know the names of these blocks, I'm certain this cyan block is the Palladium. When the screen went static, notice how the blocks are covering the moon. This static is supposed to tell us something is going on. Remember when the conspirator told Andrew the reflection is under a blackened moon, and how we saw it ourselves? We're seeing the reflection under the blackened moon. It seems that they're trying to help Andrew recover his memories, trying to recreate scenes hoping Andrew will remember, but it doesn't seem like Andrew takes notice of it. He heads over to the symbol and there's signs. They tell Andrew they don't have many chances and not to mess it up again. Inside the chest is the item. Andrew is given a second chance of redemption. He finishes off the video placing 2 cobblestone blocks and torches on the Palladium. In the next episode, he heads outside and stares at Alexander before we get this.
Andrew, where are they taking you?
The good timeline. I have an objective to fill.
What objective?
It's none of your business, Alexander.
I'm in security. You have no right to withhold that information from me. Why are you going to that timeline?
To prune the reflection.
I'll see you around then. I need to know what's in that damn room.
When the video cuts back to normal, he walks on the bridge until he stumbles across the black figure. It doesn't move and it doesn't crash Andrew's game. He asks him who or what are they and walks away. Throughout the whole investigation, there's one question that I never understood. Who was Andrew before all of this? What was he before he was stuck in this simulation? And we finally get some clarification. This scene shows who Andrew was before he was put in the simulation. He was part of 46 Intel. He went to the good timeline to prune the reflection, someone that is trying to now help Andrew to escape. He also used to know Alexander as seen in this conversation. We also notice the color text for Andrew is the same one they used when showing how everything went down. Andrew was there when he saw 6/20/20 murder Alexander and did this to try and restore his memory. Andrew was enemies with the people who are now trying to save him, but why? Alexander's brother mentions that they were brainwashed into believing the reflection is the enemy. Doomstriders understand that the people against them are only against them because they've been brainwashed, and Andrew must have done something in his past to make 6/20/20 angry and punish him to put him in this simulation. Everything that's been building up is to help Andrew remember who he used to be, and in the next episode, Andrew will start to remember everything. By the man with the winged cap.
Hello, Andrew. Yes, I have been the warp signs. They should alarm you. These don't exist in Minecraft beta. So then, where are you? Now you're getting somewhere. 46 Intel has imprisoned you in here because you sided with John and gave him a temporary edge over the organization. Unfortunately now, my now murderer, in need of a host, is on the hunt and seeks to destroy that young man. John has no idea what is about to happen. The blackened moon is real, but Andrew, you have all the tools. You just need to know where to go. We can't tell you because they'll destroy it before you can find it. You have what is necessary to escape.
By the Temp.
I don't know who you are, but you seem important. The others seem to care about your existence very much. They want to relieve you of this hell. I'm sorry for the flames I have wrought. I wanted to get your attention because the others either couldn't or chose not to. Get the hell out of here as soon as possible. I know you have what it takes.
By Alexander.
Andrew, you do not remember me. Neither do I. Forgive me for watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I watch unceasing. Andrew, you do not remember me. Neither do I. Forgive me for watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I watch unceasing. Andrew, you do not remember me. Neither do I. Forgive me for watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I watch unceasing. Andrew, you do not remember me. Neither do I. Forgive me for watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I watch unceasing. Andrew, you do not remember me. Neither do I. Forgive me for watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I watch unceasing. Andrew, you do not remember me. Neither do I. Forgive me for watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I watch unceasing. Andrew, you do not remember me. Watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you see. I watch unceasing. Watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I see. I watch unceasing. Watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I see. I watch unceasing. Watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I see. I watch unceasing. Watching your every move. Forgive the others for attacking you. They do not know what they are. You remind them of the group you once swore allegiance to. The group that stripped them of their lives. I know what I am. I see. I see. I watch unceasing. John fears the abomination he's brought into this playroom, but that man is not the John you know. This is a different man, looks just like him but has no pretty garden or pretty house.
By Nicholas.
07 72216. This is Nicholas. Stay here. There is no more truth out there than what is in here. This is your home.
Andrew looks over to see another chest. Inside is an item named the Winged Cap. Then he puts it on. We find out the warp signs has been by the man with the winged cap all along, a name we've seen before, although we don't know much about them. We find out in Andrew's previous life he sided with the Doomstriders and gave them secret information, which is what caused 6/20/20 to imprison him. The moment Andrew put on this item is when he sees the truth. There's a few frames that showcase all the events that went through Andrew's previous life, like this one, which is the clip we saw last episode. Andrew understands that he's in a simulation. With the information given to him, all he has to do now is escape. Andrew looks around his world. He enters his home and looks in his chest, but when he exits, things look different. Every ladder he goes down, every door he goes through leads him to his house again. What's interesting though is that because all of the houses are identical, so are all the items. Andrew finds himself a few more of those unknown items. He then wanders around the area, trying to figure out what's going on until he notices land generation that's cut off. He bridges to it and begins walking away. This seems like Andrew wasn't supposed to leave, or something went wrong, because this is where things take a turn. After going further out, he eventually finds the world border again, and we're given this. Andrew respawns and the world border is gone. This is what they meant. This is what the item was supposed to do. He's going beyond the simulation. This must be the second layer the agents were talking about that prevented them from reaching the reflection. But Andrew still isn't out yet. He begins going further out the simulation and the version starts going crazy. He respawns and he's in the version we saw all the way back in the first episode. It then changes to a bunch of 46s. It seems 46 Intel is panicking, trying to change the versions to control Andrew. But then the version is gone. For the first time ever, the version is gone. He finds a village and he picks up the red blocks, and we can actually see it's a retextured mossy cobblestone block. Andrew is finally understanding everything and starts writing to us. Guys, I can see everything. I know what's going on. Can't let them see, but I know who's behind this. I know where I am. The reflection is John. I know it is. I don't ever remember meeting John, but for some reason, he is in my memory. I can edit signs. New feature? Then he replies no, but it doesn't feel like Andrew was the one who just wrote this. I can feel them fighting for control. Andrew is so close to escaping, all he has to do is fight back. Do I go back? What about that place? There was somewhere I was supposed to put the item because I'm not out yet. There must be a way. All of this isn't real. He then pauses before dropping the items. What is he doing? Why is he picking up sand? Andrew, fight back! We can see him trying to and wanting to go for the items, but they won't let him. If Andrew puts the sand over his face, they will have successfully taken control of him. He then collects all the sand and opens his inventory and starts approaching his face. They take full control over him and take him back to the simulation. As of today, this is where the Andrew Games story stops. The channel continues to upload, so it's an ongoing story, but there's a lot of videos on the Palladium, Doomstriders, and Intel channels that have so much extra stuff that go outside of Minecraft that if I covered those topics, this video would be hours long. But as of right now, 46 Intel continues to keep Andrew captured, stuck in a simulation without him ever knowing, and it may be that Andrew may never leave this place. Imagine this. You just got home from school to play Minecraft. You create your new world, but start seeing weird things happening. You wonder where it's coming from. Then you see it. Standing in front of you is a creature. You don't recognize it and you barely see it. But before you can understand what's happening, the creature disappears. What you just saw was a corrupted mob that was never supposed to exist, but somehow it got into your world. Well, this scenario is exactly what happens on a channel named Omen Concrete. This channel was supposed to be a Let's Play channel with just me uploading videos of me playing in my Minecraft world until it happened. But in order to understand what it is, we have to start from the beginning. The first episode begins with our player starting his new world. Everything seems to be normal. He's collecting wood and crafting tools, and writes about school almost being over. We also see that our player goes by the name Omen. The video cuts, and Omen had made some progress. He has an underground house and is making an iron pickaxe. As he exits his house, he decides to make a dirt pillar, but as he's doing so, we get this strange clip. This clip will be important later in the video, but moving forward, the player starts killing some mobs in a cave before the video cuts again. This time, it's nighttime, and it seems Omen is heading back home after exploring, but he soon realizes that there's something different with his base. There's a bunch of holes on the ground, and judging from our player pausing and looking around indicates he didn't do it. These holes all led far underground, but Omen decides to enter his base, and before the video ends, we get another clip. We hear a horrifying sound of someone screaming from the distance, and this sound we hear doesn't exist in Minecraft. What's even more confusing are these holes in the ground. Omen is in single player, and if he's not the one who made these holes, then who did? Although there isn't much context with it being our first episode, the clip I showed earlier might help us out. If you didn't notice it before, let's go to when our player hears the sound of a pig. As he turns to look at where the sound was coming from, we see it. Standing in the distance is an entity. Judging from the lanky legs and proportions, we can't make this out to be any other mob. Whatever mob this is, we haven't seen anything like it before, and I'm certain that this won't be the last time we see this thing. Episode 2 begins with Omen placing signs on top of cobblestone blocks with a question mark on it. We can assume that under the blocks are all the holes we saw last episode. Omen is probably marking down all the holes he saw. He then types to us,
"So I don't understand what's happening. Like, I've tried searching this stuff up, but nothing is really answering my questions. I don't play Minecraft all that much, but is this normal?"
Omen is aware of his unusual situation. He then heads to a nearby cave where he starts fighting off some mobs. There, we can see the holes that we saw on the surface was dug far underground, and Omen decides to jump into the hole to see where it goes. We then get this clip. A long tunnel can be seen, and Omen anxiously enters while picking up leather, rotten flesh, and feathers along the way. Once he reaches a dead end, he decides to turn back around, but while doing so, we see this. Omen blocks his entrance before stopping the video. What did Omen get so scared about? In the video, it seems that something got his attention, but what? Well, it took a while for me to answer that same question before adjusting the brightness. We see the creature again. For just a few frames, we see it walking away, knowing that this tunnel isn't naturally generated, and Omen only found this tunnel by entering the hole that the creature made, means that Omen is currently inside the entity's tunnel. He was probably inches away from the entity just moments ago, and that realization set in after quickly ending the video. But the title is what gets me confused. For Greg. Seems like this video was made as a way to prove something, like he wants to show a friend that there's something wrong with his world. Episode 3 begins with Omen in a multiplayer server. We get introduced to another character named Ikritz. Omen wants his help to figure out what's been going on with his world.
Oh WTF, what is that? That's what I'm asking you. Did you do anything to my computer while you were using it?
Dude, we didn't even go on your computer when I was there. We were outside the whole time.
We can assume Ikritz is Greg because he tells him to look for the video with his name and the title. The conversation leads up to nothing, and Greg just telling him it might just be a creeper and then logs off. The only thing I could notice in this episode was Greg's odd behavior. He gets questioned for putting something in Omen's computer, and after denying, he tries to tell Omen it could just be a creeper to possibly keep him off guard. Maybe Greg did mess with his computer, but again, we're only on episode 3, so there's still so much more we need to know, and this conversation only motivates Omen to keep digging. In episode 4, Omen is back in his normal world. He opens his chest to see a book and quill, to which he writes,
I know I'm not crazy. I will find out who you are. But for now, you are D-Base.
Omen has created a name for this creature, D-Base. The video then cuts with our player and his dog. They're walking in a desert as night approaches, but while they're exploring, they come across a glass pillar. Omen takes a closer look and realizes the pillar goes underground, so he digs, until eventually he finds himself in the end portal room. Immediately, we notice two things wrong with this room. There's no silverfish spawner, and there's an end portal with 12 eyes but no portal. But even with all the random oddities, the most unsettling scene in this episode is Omen deciding to take a look around the stronghold. There's something off about this moment. There's no mobs, but our player still loses hunger, so he can't be in peaceful mode. But somehow, he wanders around this empty stronghold until this happens. The video then cuts. As Omen is walking, we can hear footsteps behind him. When he turns around to see no one behind him, he looks around in confusion before another cut happens, where Omen starts heading back to his base. There, he opens up his notebook again, where he writes,
Rip to my dog. Don't even know where he went.
We can assume the scene earlier where we heard footsteps behind Omen was his dog, but when he turned around, his dog vanished, which doesn't make sense. We hear the dog's footsteps, but we don't hear it die or see the death message appear in chat. But we'll have to get back to that in a bit, because right after Omen writes his message, he enters his house and we get this. We have a lot to look over, so let's start from the beginning. Glass pillars. At first, I found this clip odd, but never dug too deep into it, until I remembered something. Glass pillars were tall structures that would indicate where a stronghold was located. It also mentions that they were removed in 1.9 pre-release 4 because they were replaced by the Eye of Ender, which doesn't make sense because when Omen enters the stronghold, we see the Eyes of Enders placed on the end frame. So if these structures were removed because they were replaced by the Eye of Ender, then why do these both exist at the same time? But we did notice that Omen never got the achievement for entering the stronghold, which means he probably took inspiration off the developers using glass pillars to find strongholds and did the same, so he knew where to find them. So problem solved, right? Wrong, because we failed to look over the end portal that has all 12 eyes placed down, but for some reason the portal doesn't open. But we'll get back to that in a later episode, because in the first episode when I showed the clip of Omen hearing the sound of a pig, as he looked around, I completely ignore the pig sound, even though there was no pig to be seen, and the same thing happens in this video when we hear the sound of a chicken. And the only way a chicken can spawn this low in the world is if a baby zombie is riding it, but we don't even hear the sound of a zombie, nor have we seen any mob this entire episode, so that's unlikely. But we have to go back to Omen's dog. It randomly disappears even though we hear the footsteps coming from behind, but there's no way a wolf like that disappears. Something had to have happened behind Omen's back, like his wolf could have gotten kidnapped. When I first saw these holes, it reminded me of an animal, a mole. They like to create holes underground and use it to travel and collect their food. If Omen's wolf did get taken, then where could it have gone? Most likely in this pit we see in Omen's base. That's also why in episode 2 we see the remains of animal corpse. The feathers come from chickens, the rotten flesh come from zombies, and the leather comes from cows. house. And you know where Omen was when all of this happened? In the entity's tunnel. But now the entity D-Base has Omen's dog, and Omen is mad, and he's going to do something about it. Quick interruption, I need your help. My friend Afuli is currently moving out of his house because his dad was laid off from his job, and because of that, they can't afford to live where they're at anymore. Anything helps, even if it's just $1. If not, please share the message with a friend. The donation link will be in the description, but now, let's move on to episode 5. Episode 5 begins with Omen staring at his base, more specifically his old base, because he opens his book and quill to write
goodbye
before venturing off to make his new base. Immediately, this video gives us a few things to point out, starting with the title, Curiosity Killed the Cat, a phrase used whenever something that shouldn't pique a person's interest happened to pique their interest, basically getting the better of them, and we can see that following with the description.
Why do I have to do this? I don't want to, but I keep coming back to it. Now look where it's got me.
But in order to understand where it exactly got him, we need to continue the video. The rest of the video seems relatively normal. We never see any mobs, even though the entire video always takes place at night. But regardless, as Omen is building his new home, he keeps dozing off, staring into the dark abyss. As he's adding some final touches, he opens up his book and quill, to which he writes,
There's this itching feeling that I can't seem to let it pass. Fear gets the best of me, but this time curiosity might win. Why does it have to be in my house?
Then, moments after, this cycle of staring into the fog is broken when Omen decides to start running until the video cuts. Omen pauses as he sees his old base from the distance. He knows he can't turn back now. He opens the door to see the pit again. He covers it up and checks out his base before leaving for a few seconds. But when he enters the house, the blocks he used to cover the hole was gone, and now Omen is left confused. He breaks the 2 furnaces and chest before we see this. Let's rewind about a minute ago. At 5:45, when Omen patches the hole, not a single cut happens, but when he enters back into the base, for some reason the patched hole is gone, and I know this has some correlation with D-Base. Before Omen jumped into the hole, he breaks the furnaces and chest, and this detail can't be ignored. There's something different from the items we see now than we do from a minute ago, and I want to know if you can spot what I'm talking about. If you still didn't see it, check this out. In this furnace, there's 4 mutton chops, the other one there's 3 pork chops, and in this chest, there's 4 bread, 5 rotten flesh, and 2 pork chops. All those items disappear, but every other item seems to be there. But what do these items have in common? They're all foods you can consume. But why would this mean D-Base is the reason for these items disappearing? Well, we know from episode 2 when Omen encountered the tunnel, the remains of animals and mobs were still left there. D-Base has a history of wanting food. It's constantly hungry, and it's why it took Omen's dog, which means D-Base is responsible for the patch and food being gone. I'm certain when Omen saw the hole gone, he realized D-Base was still here, and he broke the furnaces and chest to confirm that theory. Once he saw the food was missing, he knew for sure D-Base was down there. When he leaps into the pit, there's one more thing we notice right before the video cuts. We can see this isn't just a 2x2 hole, there's more dug out, likely a tunnel of some sort. Whatever it is, Omen knows he can't go back. And my goodness, is episode 6 truly terrifying. After Omen fell into the pit last episode, he respawns at the bottom of the world. In chat, it says, your home bed was missing or obstructed, which doesn't make sense. Last episode, we see him place his bed down and set his spawn, and at no point in the video does he ever break it. So who is responsible for breaking his bed? We'll have to get back to that later. Omen collects all of his loot that he drops, and before exploring, he takes one last look at the pit he fell into. making sure he really wants to do this. And his answer is clear once he turns his back to start exploring this place. Immediately, we notice these items on the ground that seem to resemble the items we saw in episode 2, the remains of dead animals. But unlike episode 2, we realize this place isn't just a straightforward tunnel, it's a maze. As Omen collects all of the animals' remains, he finds himself lost in the maze, and the courage he once had quickly turns into fear.
I'm scared. I don't want to do this anymore.
Some time passes as Omen is exploring the maze, but as Omen opens his book and quill again, we get this. In the far distance is the entity D-Base. He's spying on Omen, but his intentions are unclear. D-Base could have struck by now and turned Omen into every other mob in this place, but for some reason, Omen still wanders around the maze. Omen starts retracing his steps. We can tell with this coal ore that Omen is back at where he started, but this time the hole he fell from is blocked. D-Base has him right where he wants him, and all that's left is to attack. But instead, at 2 minutes and 56 seconds into the video, we get this. Omen panics. He's quickly running. He keeps shaking and turning back, blocking himself as he's trying to find his way out. Eventually, he finds a tunnel that he quickly runs into without a second thought. He's blocking himself off and goes into the corner, and then the screen goes black. With everything that went down, I want to go over the craziest parts. The clearest shot we get of D-Base. Their face resembles the Steve face, including the colors of the shirts and pants also matching. We also see its mutated body parts pretty much everywhere, from his face to his legs. It's obvious this thing wasn't supposed to exist. Their glitching feed also shows this mob was never finished. Not only that, but there's a possibility that something might have went wrong when this mob was being developed. It's truly something I've never seen before. But moving on from that, I want you guys to take this video into perspective as the entity. It's an odd theory, but what if someone broke into your home without your permission and started checking it out? Would you not be upset? Maybe we need to understand that D-Base just wants to be left alone. In episode 2, when Omen was wandering around D-Base's home, maybe he felt that he needed to leave and make a new one, like the one we see here. But this theory still opens up a lot of questions, so we'll have to finish the rest of the episode. But moving forward, from the bed being broken to the blocks being placed, it seems that D-Base trapped Omen to turn him into the remains of the mobs that we see on the floor. But in some miracle, he escaped. And it's very clear that Omen is terrified of D-Base. From being confident and angry to scared and regretful, especially with the video title reading, "I regret everything," and the description being a long repeat of saying, "I'm sorry." As terrified as Omen is, it seems that this emotion will quickly turn into anger once again. Episode 7 brings us back to Omen's multiplayer server. Greg joins, but this time Omen is not happy.
This is not funny.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about. It keeps happening.
What, the thing we talked about a few weeks ago?
Yes, I want you to admit that you did something to my computer.
I told you I didn't do anything to your stupid computer. I'm tired of you accusing me of stuff I didn't even do. This isn't the first time doing something like this.
Fine then, don't come by my house anymore if you're going to keep doing stuff like this.
Greg leaves without a second thought. The video then cuts to Omen starting a new world, naming it The Truth. Keep this name in mind as I show you the rest of episode 7. He spawns in a forest, collects wood, then writes to us.
I know Greg is lying, and I'm gonna prove it. Just watch.
He's gathering stone and making tools, but then the video cuts. The next few minutes are spent with Omen making himself what seems to be a base. I then started to notice that what he's building seems awfully familiar to his old base. It's a bit odd, but maybe that's the only type of house he knows how to make. But then he starts collecting dirt and building a pillar. Now it's obvious that he's building a replica of his old base with his underground house and dirt pillar. But where exactly is he going with this? After some time, he heads outside, seeing that it's nighttime, and writes,
"Just what I thought.
But then moments after he sees a zombie, for some reason he's in complete confusion. He then puts some items in his chest before leaving his house and climbing a nearby tree to put himself in a box before the video cuts. But when he returns, he goes to his base, and as he stands by his door anxiously opening it, he stands there for a split second confused again. He then writes to us one more message.
It just doesn't make sense.
There's obviously a lot of questions circulating, but to answer them, we have to start from the beginning. The conversation between Omen and Greg gets a bit heated. If we were to believe that Greg truly did put something in Omen's computer, that would explain everything we've seen happen throughout the entire series. In fact, I thought the same way when I first saw the interaction Omen and Greg had, but we now know that this theory is false. Omen's intentions for making the survival world was to prove that Greg was lying, but how exactly? With the underground house design and dirt pillar, Omen wanted to recreate his haunted world, so that if weird stuff were happening in this world, then it would confirm Omen has some type of mod in his computer placed by Greg, but that wasn't the case. After Omen went AFK, he returned to his house expecting a pit when he opened the door, but again, that wasn't the case. He also gets confused when he sees mobs in his world, because in his haunted world, mobs cease to exist. If he could find one weird occurrence in this world that happened in his haunted world, he would know that Greg did something to his computer. But for some reason, that doesn't happen, which means Greg has been telling the truth. He really didn't do anything to his computer. So who is responsible for all the oddities we've seen throughout the series? How did Omen create himself a world where unknown creatures exist, mobs don't spawn, and end portals don't work? In order to answer this question, Omen needs to revisit his corrupted world, and he realizes this. And so, the hunt for D-Base begins. Omen stares at his haunted world, hovering his mouse over it. We can tell after episode 6, Omen took a break from the world, seeing the 2-week gap between both dates, but he musters the courage to join the world. He spawns at the surface. From where we saw him in episode 6, we can imagine he mined all the way to the surface. He stares at the bottom of the staircase before opening his book and quill.
It's been a minute.
The video cuts, and we see him at his new base. We notice a new sign at the entrance.
Don't worry, Doggo. I'll save you.
He then enters a cave to collect some redstone to make himself sticky pistons. We can tell he's collecting a certain set of materials. He makes 2 tripwire hooks, 8 redstone torches, and 2 redstone repeaters. Omen is planning on setting up a contraption, most likely a redstone trap, and if that's the case, we can only imagine who it's for. He heads to his old base, but doesn't enter it. Instead, he finds an area next to it and starts setting up the trap. He's clearing out the area and setting up the redstone, and I realize that he's setting up a flush door trap, but as he finishes up the trap, he throws some food to set the bait before the video cuts. It's nighttime and he's hiding from a distance, waiting for D-Base to notice the bait. He then waits for a few minutes before we see this. Omen waits for a bit before going to check it out. If the trap worked, then D-Base should be under this block, but when he goes to break it, we see the pit goes all the way down to the bottom of the world, compared to a few minutes ago when we saw the hole only went a few blocks down. As Omen checks it out a bit more, we get this. For episode 8, there's not much to analyze here. Omen gathers materials to set up a redstone trap for D-Base. He succeeds, but also fails. And because of this, we can tell D-Base is mad, and Omen will soon see the consequences of his own actions. The video begins with Omen exiting a cave, but before doing so, he writes,
They say there's light at the end of every tunnel.
The setting looks oddly familiar. He's in a forest, but we can tell trees are burned down until he notices something in the corner of his screen. He takes a closer look, and we can tell from the signs that this was Omen's house. He pauses every now and then, assuming he's trying to process everything that's happening. Before the video cuts, he opens his notebook to write.
So what's wrong with my tunnel?
What we're seeing is D-Base striking against Omen for trapping him. D-Base burnt down the area, including his house, as a way of insult. It adds salt to the wound as Omen questions what's wrong with his tunnel, insinuating that a bad situation will end soon or result in something good. And it seems to be the case, because after the video cuts, we see Omen low on hunger walking until we hear this. What we heard was a wolf's howl. If I were to guess, I'd say we are hearing Omen's dog that got kidnapped, and this realization sets Omen off. The video cuts, and as Omen is pleading for food in chat, this time he enters the message in chat rather than closing out the message like we normally see, almost like he's asking for help. From being taunted hearing his lost dog, seeing his house burn down, and noticing his 12 TNT and flint and steel in his hotbar, things are about to get messy.
I hate you, D-Base. You took over every house I make. You made me lose my best friend. I hate you. You wanna mess with people's stuff. Wanna steal people's pets. Wanna ruin people's friendships. Fine.
And for the first time ever, we notice text on screen.
Maybe there isn't something wrong with my tunnel. Maybe. I just haven't reached the end of it yet.
Before setting off the TNT, Omen hears a sound and sees cooked steak at the door. His plea for food was heard, but by who? D-Base. Omen writes thank you in chat, but doesn't send it because he knows it was given to him by D-Base. But again, why? Maybe D-Base knew if he gave him food, it would stop him from blowing up his home. But again, we've seen how quickly D-Base switches homes. Maybe D-Base is apologizing to Omen. Regardless, we can tell Omen closing out his thank you shows he's not ready to accept it. But this gives him hope. And with that, he remembers what he said earlier about losing his best friend. Omen realizes that Greg deserves an apology. Greg joins the world. This time, instead of running around, they decide to play the game. Greg asks him why he wanted him to get on, and this is how the conversation goes.
Just wanted to talk if that's fine.
Sure.
Wanted to apologize for accusing you of doing something you didn't do.
It's alright, I got over it.
But still, even with that, if you didn't do it, then I don't know why that thing exists. I've been keeping track of the entity. I've managed to pull up a few screenshots of the entity. There was also a time I got really close up to it that was terrifying.
Omen continues talking about the situation a bit more before Greg finally says something.
Why does it bother you so much?
Omen pauses, not really knowing how to respond.
I guess I don't really know.
I remember I used to be scared of a lot of things, but then I realized that you're not the only one scared. Sometimes, you just gotta open your eyes.
Then Greg says he forgives him, but he has to go, and the video ends. This message right here is the breaking point for all of this. This story was viewed from the perspective of Omen and Omen only, a scared kid that was terrified of this creature. But like Greg said, sometimes you just gotta open your eyes. This whole time, D-Base was just as scared as Omen was to D-Base. That's why we never saw D-Base physically interact with Omen and vice versa. They were both scared of each other. D-Base never wanted to do this. It never wanted to harm Omen, and it never wanted to cause so much chaos. I think this all started from a misunderstanding that broke out to be this rivalry between two characters. With the understanding of the relationship, there's just one more question to this story that will answer everything. Why does D-Base exist? One question left with one video remaining, and we better hope this video answers it. Omen is playing on window mode. He opens his book and quill to write.
I was wrong.
He closes his book and makes his way to the house. As he stares into the pit one last time, he opens his book and quill, but instead he goes to sign it and throws it into the pit. We then see a dog teleport to Omen's location, clicks on it and realizes it's his kidnapped dog. Turns around to see the outside. It seemed that the dark and gloomy weather had cleared up and now it's bright and sunny out. He looks at the sun, then opens his notepad.
Rest easy, D-Base.
As he closes the notepad, we see a new message appear in chat. There's no name attached to the message, but it says, "Thank you." And as Omen closes Minecraft, it reveals a file behind it named Survival World 1, the same name of Omen's corrupted world. He drags the file to the recycle bin, and the video ends. Let's depict Omen's message one last time. This was never meant to happen, but I abused it anyways. The word "this" could mean the survival world in general. Maybe the world could have been a fluke, a corruption in the system, a world that was never supposed to exist, but he went ahead and used it for his own pleasure. This would explain all the oddities that have ever occurred. It all exists because this world was an accident, a world that was not supposed to be released to the public. What really piqued my interest was an entity having gratitude. We know D-Base is always hungry, always scavenging for food, and always wanting to eat, but he still shows Omen empathy, giving him food when he was pleading for his life and giving his dog back when he knows he didn't have to. D-Base is different from every other coded mob. Omen realizes from the beginning he wasn't supposed to be here. This world was an accident, and most importantly, D-Base wasn't supposed to exist. Realizing that, he goes to delete the world file, marking the end of his journey, but more importantly, marking the end of a corrupted mob that was never supposed to exist.
Oh my god. Oh, hello. You might be wondering how I got myself into this little predicament. Well, the reason scalding hot coffee is incinerating my nether regions is because I'm trying to find the best gas station food in every other region. So don't let my nads sizzle in vain. Stick around to see which gas station will reign supreme. Hello internet, welcome to Food Theory on the Road, where the theories don't stop and the food always has the right of way. Just to catch you up, I'm moving from Los Angeles, California to Miami, Florida, and I'm not just putting on my seatbelt, I'm clicking on my thinking cap to see what theories I can find on the open road. And in case you are joining for the first time, make sure to click the subscribe button because every sub will get me 1 mile closer to my destination. And I am tired. I just want to go home. But speaking of being tired, one of the most important parts of any road trip is filling up at the gas station. And not just filling up your tank, filling up your stomach too. But whenever you're in a rush or on the road like I am, you gotta make sure wherever you stop is gonna hit the spot. So today, we're gonna be visiting major gas stations all across the country to determine not just which category of gas station food is the best, so that you know what foods to reach for no matter the gas station, but at the end of it all, we'll be finding out which gas station truly stands above the rest. So the most important thing to keep in mind here is that all gas stations are not created equal. Some of them are geared more towards a quick pump and being on your way, while others are much more of an experience. It really wouldn't be fair to flat out compare different gas stations to each other since they're not all trying to provide the same dining experience. And yes, I do use the word dining very loosely. So in order to not have everything skewed towards those experiential locations, we're going to be looking at things a little differently. First and foremost, we're not going to be looking at the things you find on the shelves and fridges and gas stations. Reason being that every single place will offer the regular degular chips, drinks, and jerkies that you might associate with gas stations. Hence, we can cancel those out across the board and focus our attention on their hot bars and made to order items. So we're going to be looking at 3 different well, I was gonna say fresh, food categories that you'll find at most, if not all, gas stations. Those being a poultry dish, a meat dish, and, as you astute theorists may have gleaned from that cold open, coffee. We've broadened that scope since no two places will have the exact same food, giving us a chance to even the playing field. But we're not just gonna be looking at the taste, since that's so subjective. Instead, we'll be looking at the price, freshness, and convenience of each food category and ranking the places on an F to S tier list. This way, we'll be able to find out, regardless of which gas station you find yourself at, what type of food you should be springing for. So to start things off, we'll be taking a look at my nemesis, coffee. Luckily, like gross bathrooms and truckers named Buck, Tuck, or Trevor, coffee is something that you're pretty much guaranteed to find at any and every gas station. But the nuance here is how that coffee is prepared. You have coffees that are made and poured into dispensers where they sit all day until they're emptied, and on the other end of that, you have coffee machines that grind the beans right in front of you. Of the major chains we visited, Mobil, Chevron, and Shell had the most variety in coffee machines. That didn't exactly mean it had the best coffee of the three, though. The biggest downfall of all the major gas stations when it came to their cup of joes was the maintenance that coffee requires, because the Shell stations which did have the quote-unquote fancier machines ended up having staler tasting coffee. Our hypothesis here was that the coffee machines need regular cleaning and descaling, something that the employees in more isolated areas most likely didn't do. Descaling is the process of removing the mineral buildup in the machines that happens when water runs through in the coffee making process. That buildup of calcium and other minerals ends up giving the coffee a stale, bitter, or even acidic taste, which is exactly what we experienced in most cases. When it came to the freshness, the major chains were at the bottom of the bunch. They also came in dead last for the coffee variety. Forget about light, medium, and dark roasts. While there were exceptions, like the locations that had the machines, for the most part, it was a regular or decaf or no other option sort of deal. That said, coffee that was made by the gallon came with some of the cheapest prices we found, ranging from a simple $1 to $1.80 across the board. And since these chains are so widespread, if you're in need of a quick, cheap caffeine pick-me-up that doesn't come in the form of an energy drink, the major brands are a good bet. When it came to the regional places, there were some clear winners and some clear losers, starting with the biggest upset, Buc-ee's. Now, if you've never seen or been to one of these magical places, Buc-ee's started out in Texas, but is now in 7 other states with plans to add another 10 on top of that. And when I tell you that I was awestruck, that's still an understatement. Walking inside felt like walking into Disneyland. There was merchandise, there was a mascot, and there was an entire wall of jerky. I knew going into it that this place had some serious fans, so I figured with a place that had a reputation that preceded it like this, that the coffee would at least be decent. That was not the case. And I'm not just biased because this is where I burned my giblets, even though I did add an impromptu category just for them.
That's a 0. That is a 0 for Buc-ee's in item quality. Jeez, I'm gonna take off the top now. Yeah, all right, let's see this. Yeah, not much flavor, tastes a little stale. Definitely not a fresh pot. It's not bad, but it's definitely not good.
Unfortunately, the problem with such a massive place like Buc-ee's is that it has the same pitfalls as the major chains from before. With so many people coming through, you have 2 options. 1, constantly be replacing and refilling the coffee containers, or 2, just have the coffee in massive containers so that you only have to replace it every once in a while. I'm not faulting Buc-ee's for going with the latter. After all, it makes way less sense to have someone pretty much dedicate their day to refilling the coffee, and it allows them to sell it for the cheap price of $1.29, but it did end up biting the beaver in the butt. In the coffee category, that's a big D tier for the fan favorite. And before you start thinking that any place with pre-filled dispensers will have a bad taste, there was a shining exception in Love's.
Oh yeah, it's night and day. It's night and day. This is way better. This isn't mind-blowing coffee, but it has a good flavor. It has a good bitterness. It doesn't taste stale. It tastes relatively fresh made. Like you know, it feels like if you went to run-of-the-mill coffee shop, like between this and Starbucks, for example, I wouldn't know the difference, and this is only $2. But the flavor here, very, very good.
I realize that saying the coffee is like Starbucks isn't exactly a glowing review, but compared to all the others we'd had so far, it was the first one that we actually enjoyed sipping on. The flip side of the coin is that it did cost a few more coins, coming out at a total of $2.09. But for the convenience of a grab and pour coffee with a fresh taste, the price absolutely seemed worth it. Love's landed right in our B tier for this category. Wawa, the East Coast beast, was in the middle of the pack. It was fine and was pretty deserving of and see. The top dogs when it came to coffee were the gas stations with machines that actually ground the coffee beans up when you ordered it. Sheetz was the first place where we experienced this, and it made a huge difference.
This has been my favorite coffee so far. It does taste much more fresh than the other ones.
Sheetz was the first comfortable A-tier coffee. Good news for the rest of Team Theorist in Raleigh. But the standout star, and by far the best coffee we had, was at Circle K. Having never been to one before in my life, I had no idea what to expect. But as soon as I saw the machines, I knew it would be good. And at $1.69 price point, it was among some of the cheaper options too.
So, like I mentioned, this was $1.69. Nice. Let's see. In terms of freshness, I'm hard pressed to find something that beats this, because you can tell that it was ground in the moment. Of all the gas stations, this is the freshest coffee, and also comes in under that $2 mark.
Circle K hit the mark in every way. A nice price, quick and convenient coffee machine, and great freshness. So Circle K, more like Circle S tier. So where does that leave us? If you're looking for a good gas station coffee, it's definitely a challenge unless you find a place that has the machines that grind the beans when you order. That said, if it's a gas station with a coffee dispenser, try and get the coffee from the ones that have just been filled. More refilling means fresher coffee. But no matter what you do, don't drink Buc-ee's coffee without quadruple checking that the lid actually fits on the cup. Let's face it though, you're not going to change where you fill up your tank just because of the coffee. So let's move on to the actual difference makers here, starting with the poultry. The major chains don't really stand a chance here because frankly they were so hit and miss as to whether they'd even have a hot bar that giving them an F didn't even seem right. So sorry big brands, you won't even make it in these next two categories. But the ones that did make it to the bottom here were the same ones that topped the last category. That's right, Circle K gets a big F here. While their price was low for their hot bar foods, they'd been sitting under a heating lamp to the point that the wrapper was hotter than the food itself. And from a convenience standpoint, when I grabbed the sandwich that was in the chicken slot, I didn't realize that it was actually a misplaced breakfast sausage sandwich until I got into the car. Pretty much the opposite of convenient when you expect to buy one thing and get another. And sorry to say to the team in Raleigh, but Sheetz was a pun I can't make if I want to stay monetized.
That was hard to get down. The mayo, first of all, slathered on there. The bread is so cakey that it absorbs all your saliva and it makes it so hard to get it down.
The worst part about it was that, like their coffee, it was made to order. But instead of being more fresh because of that, it was clear that the ingredients had been sitting out for quite some time. My stomach was not happy about this, which is not something you want happening on the road. The price wasn't even cheap for the sandwich either, coming in at almost $9. The only thing that saves this from the F tier is the fact that you can order through a touchscreen that shows you all the options for customization in a nice, simple way. Love's had the least amount of variety in their foods, with just fried chicken rolls available that cooked under a heating lamp. Freshness, thy name is not Love's. But at a $2.50 price point and a very convenient grab-and-go method, it did merit a C tier placing. And in a classic redemption story, Buc-ee's easily placed in the S tier here. At a $6.99 price for the chicken sandwich that you could just grab from the bar, it was one of the more affordable options while staying super convenient. And even though they were pre-made, people were snatching them up so fast that the employees were constantly making new sandwiches.
This one was just put on when I had gotten it. Now, these things were moving. People were buying them nonstop, and they were constantly having to make new ones. So right off the top, for freshness, it's looking good. I mean, the chicken looks crispy, not too soggy.
And not to knock Circle K while it's down, but the sandwiches were all where they were supposed to be. Now, Wawa was almost in this S tier category too, and deserved an honorable mention for their signature chicken quesadilla, or quesadilla for the non-Argentinian world.
Oh my God. This is in another league. It is delicious. It's seasoned very well. The chicken is flavorful. The pico de gallo has that kind of acidity and juiciness from the tomato that you like. The cheese, it's not overwhelmingly cheesy, so it doesn't get too greasy, but it's definitely there. This is the kind of quality I would expect from like a mid-tier fast food, kind of like Mexican fast food place.
If we were ranking based on taste, this would have been in a category even above S. It wasn't gas station food. It was restaurant quality. Obviously, freshness was also off the charts, since it was made to order via touchscreen. And for $6.74, it beat even Buc-ee's in price. Unfortunately, the convenience is where Wawa fell from grace. From the moment I ordered to when I picked up my food, almost 15 minutes passed. Not an issue when you're seated at a restaurant, but when you're getting gas and trying to get back out on the road, 15 minutes seems like an eternity. So womp womp for Wawa, but at least it's still A tier. Ultimately, when it comes to the chicken options, Grab and Go should be your go-to. And excluding Sheetz, there weren't any truly bad tasting dishes. I mean, for what it's worth, even the mistaken breakfast sausage from Circle K was pretty darn good.
Oh, that is awesome.
Ah, what could have been. But that leads us to the final category, the meat. This one was unique in that most of the places had the same meat dish, the tried and true hot dog. It was honestly the easiest category to standardize our ranking across the board. Since the convenience was pretty equal, what this boiled down to was the freshness of the ingredients available and the price of each dog. Love's, Circle K, and Sheetz battled it out, and spoiler alert for the Theorist team, Sheetz didn't do well again. Despite being the only made-to-order hot dog, it tasted the least fresh.
Not gonna lie to you one bit. The onion is flavorless. The bread is somehow stale.
I mean, just how is a made-to-order hot dog stale? I had to wait 5 minutes for this? The only reason it's not kicked right off of the list is because of the $1 price tag. It's literally the cheapest meat item we got over the course of the road trip, but the price isn't enough to offset the stale bread and the lack of convenience here with not being able to put on the toppings yourself. Circle K did let you put on the toppings yourself, and the hot dog was only 50 cents more than Sheetz's, but it was clear that the dogs and the ingredients had been left out there for quite some time. The onions and relish were lukewarm, and once again, the dog that I got was not the one that I intended. How hard is it to put things where they belong, Circle K? This time around, it was somehow even more egregious.
This is a jalapeno cheddar sausage. Did not realize that. It was in the all beef section, so shame on you, Circle K, because if someone were to eat this that doesn't have a spice tolerance, whoo-wee.
This actually did mean that my live action producer and wife couldn't try it for the second opinion, since eating something as spicy as that hot dog would no doubt kill her instantly. At least this time it was the right protein, so Circle K can rest easy in the C category. But all hope is not lost for the hot dogs, theorists.
Honestly, way better than it should be. The all beef hot dog is flavorful, it's juicy, it's just really good.
Love's hot dog was a whopping $2.50, which is more than double the cost of Sheetz, but the sausage tasted fresh somehow, despite being under the cooking lamp for who knows how long. But it was the toppings that really shined here. The toppings were covered and put on an ice bed to keep them nice and cool without drying out and losing flavor. The convenience of grabbing whatever fresh things you want and skedaddling was great, and even though the price was the highest of the hot dogs, it's still only $2.50. Loved Love's, and for checking every box solidly, it was the top dog in the S tier. But it wasn't alone at the top. No, not Wawa. Their famous hot Italian sandwich couldn't even beat Circle K. It was $10 for the aforementioned 15-minute wait. No amount of freshness would make up for that. The second crown in this category goes to Buc-ee's once again. Their 3-meat sandwich was by far and away the best food we tasted.
Oh my God. That is restaurant quality. The astounding thing for me is that it hasn't even been left out enough for the heat to steam up and make the bread soggy.
And with this sandwich clearly being the fan favorite, they didn't stop constantly making fresh ones for people to just take. But there is a catch. This wasn't just the tastiest item, it was also the priciest. At a whopping $13, it was almost 6 times as expensive as Love's hot dog. Sure, it is fresh and very convenient. You don't even have to add toppings to it like you do with the hot dogs, but the price tag was just too much to overcome to land it in the S tier. The main thing to take away here though is that if you're hankering for a hot dog on the road, meat is the category you're gonna want to look for. And despite all the fancy schmancy foods popping up in gas stations all across the country, it's hard to beat a good old-fashioned hot dog. From the convenience of customization and speed to the price and the relative freshness, it's the safest bet for you at any gas station. And when it comes to which one stands on top of the rest, well, the average scores across all the categories actually give us a tie between Buc-ee's and the underdog we grew to love, Love's. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're looking for a quick, cheap, and relatively tasty refuel, Love's is a national chain that has 640 locations in 42 states. But if you're in Buc-ee's land and want to shell out a few more bucks for some of the best tasting gas station food you'll ever have, it's a clear choice. And unless you're looking for coffee, stay far, far away from Sheetz. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. See you on the road. We're almost at the end of our trip, so come back because we'll be diving into...
I messed up.
Robots are now operating fast food restaurants. That's right, there's a McDonald's in Fort Worth, Texas that no longer requires any human interaction for you to order or pick up your food. No more flop sweat when cashiers judge you for not knowing what you want to order. No more saying you too when they say enjoy your meal and reliving that cringe for the rest of your life. So you know this had to be my next stop, because I had to see for myself if it's all it's cracked up to be. Hello Internet, welcome to Food Theory on the Road, a first of its kind series where I hit the road to see what theories I may find. In case you missed the first episode, let me catch you up. I'm moving from Los Angeles, California to Miami, Florida because I can't put my 80-pound beast of a dog in one of those cute little bags and carry him with me on a plane. And he's not a good enough actor to dress up as an old lady like Shaggy and Scooby did in the live-action movie. But I decided to use this golden opportunity to finally knock some to-dos off my theory bucket list. And if you want to see what other things are on that list, you might want to click that little subscribe button down there to see what's up next week. This week, though, it means I'm checking out the world's first robot-operated McDonald's. Now, I've seen headlines for months about this thing, and truth be told, this was actually an episode that Matt had his eye on, but we could never figure out the travel and the timing. Enter Food Theory on the Road. If you're not familiar with the cutting edge location, the big draw here is that you as the customer don't have to deal with any human interaction. If you order online or through the app, you can just pull up to a window and your bag will come out to you in a cool elevator/conveyor belt thing. You can also order in person by using the kiosks that are pretty much available in every other location at this point and just picking up your order from the window when it's ready. So I decided I'd put these robots to the test to see how far from the apocalypse we are, and if they really are the future of fast food. Because you know what they say, if a robot can whip up a burger, it can whip up the destruction of all mankind. I had a whole experiment planned out in order to find if this truly would be the future of fast food. But just like cooking a steak on an engine and so many other experiments I talked myself into doing, seldom if ever do things go as planned. To my surprise, and to my disappointment, that robot operated has a huge asterisk next to it if you ask me, because the only part of the restaurant that is robot operated is the front of house. So it's true that there are no employees having to clean up after customers and no one taking your order, but that doesn't mean the place is devoid of human life. There's still plenty of employees in the back who are actually preparing the food. That's right, it's not like Wall-E is back there frying up the fries and flipping the burgers, it's just regular old Wall-E. Not to knock Wall-E, but it's just not the same. Regardless, the choice was made so that the employees could solely focus on the speed and accuracy of the orders, since they wouldn't have to deal with bussing tables or anything else that might distract them. So, boo, we can't compare humans to robots, but we can compare speed and accuracy to determine if this really will be the next big thing.
So we're gonna order the same meals across different McDonald's all over the country, and we're gonna see how they stack up to this one.
5 different states, 5 different human-operated McDonald's to compare. In Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, North Carolina, and South Carolina. We'll be ordering 2 full combo meals. One will be a Big Mac with no modifications, and one will be a Big Mac with extra everything. This will be how we determine the accuracy of the orders, comparing the base burger with the modified one. And we'll measure speed from the moment of payment to handoff. The biggest catch and hurdle here is the fact that the robot-operated McDonald's utilizes the self-serve kiosks. In our drive-thru episode, we discovered that the drawback of the kiosks is the lack of options you're given. For example, one of the modifications we wanted to try was to remove the middle bun from the Big Mac. Good little hack if you don't want so much bread on your burger, but it's impossible to do that at the kiosk. However, 4 of the 5 human-operated McDonald's did allow it. Obviously, to level the playing field, we only asked in those locations, we didn't order since we couldn't do it at the robot one. So we had to keep our modifications to what the kiosks allowed us to do. With all that said, it was time to get started.
It is very cool. You step inside, you don't see any tables, You don't see any employees, you don't see any trash cans, nothing. All you see is a double-sided kiosk and the order pickup window. It's actually kind of eerie, but super cool at the same time.
The restaurant really is for people on the go. No tables meant I had to eat it hunched over like a burger gremlin in my car like the fast food gods intended. And I gotta say, it did not take long for me to get my order. And when it came to the food itself, it was actually two of the neatest looking Big Macs I've ever gotten in my many years of fast food connoisseurship. But we're not just here for looks. The accuracy of the order was also evident. The base burger was seriously lacking in onions and pickles, but the modified one had an obvious increase. The lettuce was a bit harder to judge, but the difference in sauce between the two of them was also huge. Good for me, since I love a good old sloppy Mac. Now, the thing to keep in mind here as we remember to every other state for McDonald's is that, unlike last time, we aren't focusing on the errors made, but rather the visual difference between the modified burger and the unchanged burger. Since we're only testing one ordering method, we're more concerned with whether the changes we asked for are actually reflected, and, of course, how quickly they get done. Despite not comparing the different locations to each other, there is one thing to call out, and that is the difference between the unchanged burgers. Even though McDonald's has standardized quantities of each ingredient that are supposed to go on each burger, each location's base burger was vastly different from one another. Ironically, when we asked for the modified burger, the extra additions were fairly consistent across the board. So even though it's not part of what we're measuring today, if you want more than a couple of specks of onion or a sad single pickle on your burger, your best bet is to ask for extra. As far as the accuracy of the orders go, the ingredients that stayed the most consistent in the modifications were the onion and lettuce. In the base burger, onions were so few I could probably count them on my fingers, and the modified burgers across the board seemed to have a consistent amount of onions added. The two ingredients that varied the most were the pickles and the Big Mac sauce. In the base burgers, 2 pickles seemed to be the standard, and a small dollop of sauce. The modified burgers had way more pickles, even though the number changed a lot from location to location. And when it came to the sauce, woo-wee, they threw caution to the wind when I asked for extra. It felt like they were mad at me for asking for more, like, "You want extra? I'll show you extra!" Blah, and just dumped a pile onto the burger. The question here ended up being less about accuracy and more about variability. Because in our case here, across the locations, the modifications were made, so each location was accurate. But while asking for modifications did increase the quantity of each ingredient in every single case, it was wildly different every time. That said, not every mad lad is going to be opening their burger to count the individual pieces of onion and pickles, so at the end of the day, so long as more is put on the burger, that's all that matters. And as far as that goes, the robot-operated McDonald's didn't seem to do any better than any of the human-operated ones. Which leads us to the speed. This is fast food after all. And like I mentioned in the previous episode, I got places to be, and I got the need. The need for speed. The robot-operated Mickey D's set the bar high. I mentioned I got my order fast earlier, and when I say that, I mean it. From the time I placed my order to the second I picked up the bag, only 2 minutes and 30 seconds passed. No other location got even close to that number. In fact, only one other location managed to get my order out in under 4 minutes. And even then, it was in 3 minutes and 52 seconds. The slowest spot in Oklahoma took 5 minutes and 13 seconds. Over double the amount of time. Granted, we're talking about a couple of minutes here, but when you're hungry, an extra 2 minutes can seem like an eternity. Taking the average of all the human locations, we end up with 4 minutes and 44 seconds. So with order accuracy being equal among all of them, the robot McDonald's easily takes the prize here thanks to their speed. But it's not as clean cut as that. Because like I mentioned earlier, the self-serve kiosk not only lacks customization options that are otherwise available if you order with a person at the register, it adds another element that actually slows you down.
One thing I will note is that coming in here and actually speaking to someone, it was a lot faster to get my order in. I didn't have to scroll through the kiosk to find the options and do everything I wanted to do. Just being able to tell someone and they know how to put it in correctly was honestly great.
While it didn't fully offset the difference in time in most of the scenarios, it was a more pleasurable experience not having to fumble around the touchscreen. Plus, the human element does have its upsides.
He also complimented my shirt, so I am absolutely biased.
What can I say? I'm a sucker for compliments. But there is something to be said about being able to ask an employee questions about your order, especially if you are looking to modify it in any way. Without someone at the front, and with the current state of the kiosks, you as a customer may be missing missing out on getting your meal exactly how you want it. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how quickly you get your meal if you can't get exactly what you want. But if you're not someone that likes to mess around with your McDonald's meal all that much and you're just looking for a quick fix, the robot operation does make a massive difference in how quickly you can get your food. And if this location continues to be successful, McDonald's may expand this concept and put more emphasis on the user experience on the kiosks, so the lack of customization now may not be a problem down the road. There's actually one other thing that this new era of fast fooddom brings with this concept though: quality of life for the employees. While sure, there are less employees needed at a specific location like the one in Fort Worth, they're under far less pressure overall when they don't have to deal with talking with customers. Not only because some people get hangry, but because employees are under a lot of pressure to get orders out in a specific amount of time. That's right, one of the top comments from our previous video actually revealed that employees are timed on their orders, and a little bit more digging showed that yeah, this is actually the case. The Golden Arches apparently puts a lot of pressure on employees to get their orders out in 3 minutes or less. And considering all 5 human-operated locations were almost a minute over that at best, and 2 minutes over that at worst, it means that having to deal with customers definitely slows down their ability to bring out orders. And that's not even talking about employees that have to clean up after that one kid who decided to scarf his meal down a bit too quickly and ends up leaving it all over the floor. Now, obviously, the big concern here is that robot automation won't just stay in the front of house. In fact, restaurants like White Castle, Chipotle, and Panera have already started implementing burger flipping robots into their respective kitchens. That said, it's been to varying degrees of success. Cali Express by Flippy, the world's first completely automated fast food restaurant in Pasadena, California, is probably the best example of showing that robots aren't quite up to the task just yet. Let me tell you, we've been wanting to try this place out for a long time now, but they'd been plagued with delays, bad reviews, and closures up until their pop-up up and popped out of existence. So as far as the Terminator preparing your burgers and fries, yeah, we're still quite a ways away. But in the meantime, the quote-unquote robot-operated McDonald's has been enough of a success that another one opened up in Denver, Colorado earlier this year. So this is most likely the future of fast food, going back to its roots of focusing solely on the pick-up-and-go experience. The owners of the locations get to concentrate their workforce on the actual product itself, and the employees can breathe a sigh of relief not having to barely keep their heads above water trying to meet strict timings. And even though in the short term, we won't quite have the same level of customization for our meals, we'll get them in record time to eat them in our cars like the fast food gods intended. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory! See you on the road. If you like this, make sure to tune in next week to see which gas station foods you should be snacking on. And as always, I'll see you next week.
Everywhere you look online right now, we're seeing variations of the same video.
Ordering
Battle Cats. Probably one of the best mobile games out there. If you don't know what Battle Cats is, well, then how did you even find this video? But for the 3 people that don't know, it's a game where you take over the world with cats ranging from normal feline companions to eldritch abominations and hot anime women. It's free, so give it a try. Now, for those that play the game, let me ask you this. What is the worst and least fun mechanic of it? Most people would probably say grinding treasures. For those that don't know, every level has a 35% chance of giving you an item called treasure. Now that sucks already, but after that you'll also need the best variant of that treasure. Each treasure has 3 variants: inferior, which has a 45% chance, normal, which has a 30% chance, and superior, which has a 25% chance. So each time you play a level, you only have a 9% chance of getting what you need. There are 432 stages in which you can get treasures. Now, there are of course things to make the chance go up. One being the Treasure Festival, which turns the 35% chance of even getting one into a 70% chance. You can also use a Treasure Raider, which gives you a 100% chance of receiving the highest grade reward available. But don't use them for that, since it's a very valuable item. Now, what do treasures even do? Well, they boost your stats massively. After getting a set amount of treasures, they will form into a treasure item, which ranges from dog water to if you don't have this maxed, you are dead. Let's quickly get over how much I'm missing out on. The first treasure you can get boosts the speed at which you get money. Probably the best treasure in the game. I mean, just compare the speed to having no treasure and it maxed out. Next is one that lets you hold more money. Also very important. I can't even use some units without having this maxed. Next is the recharge speed of a unit. And comparing the two, yeah, it's a massive downgrade. After that comes money for defeating enemies. It would be nice to have that, but since our wallet is so small, it doesn't really make much of a difference. And after that, more cat health and damage. These two are probably the main reason why this challenge is so hard. Since you have to get every treasure 3 times, our cats will be 300% weaker than they're supposed to be. All stages after Empire of Cats are specifically made with the thought that you already have all treasures maxed. I am terrified of even trying event stages. Now you should know why this challenge is so difficult. All those stat decreases sadly make it impossible to progress the game without grinding treasures. Or is it? Yeah, you read the title. In this video, I will attempt to beat Battle Cats without getting a single treasure item. First things first, there are 3 rules that I set for myself. 1. No continues. In Battle Cats, if you lose, you have the option to continue a stage for 30 cat food. You can also use that as many times as you want. Now, that would of course make things way too easy, so I'm never gonna use it. 2. No Cat God. In the Special Unit tab, you can buy Cat God for 2000 XP. With that, you have access to strong abilities for cat food, which would make everything way too easy. So I'm also not gonna use that. And lastly, no tracking. If you didn't know, you can see what units you will get after putting your last 10 units that you got from a gacha into a website. Now with that out of the way, let's begin.
Wait, I have a question first.
What is it?
What do you do if you get a full treasure item by accident? I mean, it's not something you can control. There are even stages where you only need 1 treasure to activate a treasure item.
That is an excellent question. Well, if that happens throughout the challenge, I will just have to delete the account and try again.
What?
Yeah, that's right. If at any moment I complete a treasure item, I will restart the entire thing. Doesn't matter if it's trash or a good one. So yeah, wish me luck. Our journey started where many end, Korea. After a long and hard battle, I managed to beat it with my first unit. Cat. And we got a superior treasure. But that's fine, since there's a 100% chance to get it on the first level for some reason. After that, I unlocked the menu and here comes the big helpful thing, the Wildcat slot. You see, I started this challenge during the 9th anniversary of Battle Cats, because you get some insane rewards during that time. Specifically, cat food and rare tickets. And with that, I started my journey with over 1000 cat food. I then beat Mongolia and China and unlocked Axe Cat, which is a huge carry during the early levels of Battle Cats, but gets outclassed pretty fast. Next 2 stages were also pretty easy. After the Philippines, I unlocked Ninja Cat. You're gonna see him a lot. Ninja Cat is an Empire of Cats destroyer. It's spammable, with low cost, good HP and good damage, and it even targets red. What else could you want? With that, I destroyed Japan and unlocked a lot of stuff, mainly the gacha. I then decided to spice things up a little and not use any rare capsules for the first world. Why? Well, to make it a little bit more challenging. Anyways, the next 3 levels went bad, since I got 3 treasures back to back. Only 1 was missing to complete an item, but I got lucky and didn't get it. After a few more levels, I unlocked Titan Cat, who's basically gonna be our Uber for this first world. I then upgraded Titan Cat and Ninja Cat to level 10, and turns out these 2 are so strong that not a single enemy managed to touch my base for the rest of the chapter. No, the real challenge was Alaska, the only stage where you only need 1 treasure to complete the treasure item. Luckily, I didn't get it, but I would have to do that 2 more times in the next 2 worlds, which made me kind of anxious. But who cares, future me can deal with that. And with that, I finally made it to Moon 1, where we encountered our first boss, which I beat first try. Yeah, it's just some slow head that has very long attack cooldown. And with that I beat Chapter 1 Moon, and I was lucky enough to not get any treasures. Let's continue to World 2. Now, it was time to finally use one of the core mechanics of the game, Gacha. The event that was on right now was Superfest, which is the best banner in the entire game. You can almost get every Uber on there, and Fest exclusives. I wasn't looking for anything specific, since almost all Ubers are good during the early game. With all the rewards you get through the 9th anniversary, I had already saved up 18 rare tickets and 3000 cat food. I decided to only spend the tickets and 111 draw for now, since it was half off. Let's see what we'll get. Wow, an Uber on the first draw? That's pretty lucky. Let's see what we'll get next. Yeah, that's right. My first 2 draws on this account were Ubers. Overall, an incredibly lucky 11 draw, and with the 18 tickets I got more average units, 1 million XP and Megidora. I then sold what I didn't need to build a nice little team and maxed out everything I could. The main thing that made me confident about this run were Hades and Megidora.
Hey guys, editing me here. So, I just noticed that this guy isn't actually called Hades. His name is Lucifer. I don't know how this happened, but for this entire challenge, I must have not read his name a single time.
Hades has an ability where he sometimes does a surge attack, which is very powerful during early game and even late game. And Megidora targets floating, which I knew I was gonna need sometimes later. I was pretty satisfied with this team, but it was sadly missing a little someone. My number 2 favorite unit in all of Battlecat, Rockercat. Yeah, this guy was incredible. Insane attack speed, a lot of health, low cost and fast deploy speed. This guy carried me through the early game on my main account. And during that time I kind of grew attached to him. Sadly I didn't pull him, but maybe we'll get him later. Oh, I pulled him the next day with another rare ticket I got. Well, here's the team for now.
Hey!
Yeah?
Why are you using Q over Megidora? You just praised him and now you're not even gonna use him? Also, Q sucks compared to him.
Ah yes, that is because I couldn't use him at that point. You see, my Worker Cat's max was 5,500 and throughout World 2 everything is capped at level 10, so for now Megidora is going to have to sit on the bench. Let's see how it goes. World 2 is just the same as World 1, with the difference that the summoning cost has increased by 50% and enemy health and damage by 150%, or 1.5 times their normal strength, which was still manageable. All that really changed is how long it took me to beat a stage. Oh, and one more thing, the final boss is gonna be different. So, while the victories are playing in the background, let me tell you a little story. When I was about 12 years old, I was looking through the App Store and found an interesting game called Battlecats. The game was relatively new when I started playing it, and it was so much fun. I instantly fell in love with it, and I started recommending it to all of my friends. But there was a little problem. I didn't speak English, and back then the game wasn't available in my language. That wasn't that big of a deal to me, since I was kind of used to playing games in languages I didn't understand. So I kept playing, and after a while I noticed that it was getting pretty difficult. There were certain levels where no matter what I did, I just couldn't beat them. There were 2 reasons for that. One, I had no idea how gacha worked, and played pretty much gacha-less the entire time. Yeah, I thought the things you got from it were just stickers or something that you could sell for a lot of XP. You should have seen the look on my face once I pressed the use now button for the first time. I hope I wasn't the only one this happened to, but I figured that one out after a year. The other reason was I had no idea how treasures worked. Now, I know I wasn't the only one struggling with that, since there are so many YouTube videos with over 1 million views of people just beating Moon 3. So, how long did it take me to figure out how treasure grinding works? 5 years. Now, in those 5 years, I was stuck on Moon 3. Get what I'm saying? The reason I decided to make this video was because I kind of already tried this challenge. And one day, I asked myself if it was even possible. And I found nothing. No one has ever attempted this, as far as I could find at least. All you can find online is one Reddit post asking how far you can make it that coincidentally was made while I was attempting it. I have no idea if it is even possible.
But it looks pretty easy. I mean, so far you didn't even lose a single level.
Oh, this? Yeah, this is the easy part. I knew that the first 2 worlds would be easy. The only way I could have lost was if I accidentally completed a treasure item, which luckily didn't happen, not even in Alaska. The real challenge would begin on World 3. World 2 went pretty easy, as you can see, and I only had 3 close times where I almost got a treasure. The big thing after beating World 2 is your level cap increasing. Before, the level cap was level 10, but now I can upgrade everything to level 20. With that, I was finally getting money at a moderately fast rate, and I could finally use Megidora, which I didn't do for now since I was out of XP from leveling my base cats. Let's talk about World 3. For many people, that is where I stopped playing the game entirely. You'll know why that is soon. How much did the enemy stat increase? 4 times. Yeah, that's right. All enemies have 400% more health and damage. Okay, I can deal with that. I'm able to upgrade my cats to level 20 now, so my stat increase should roughly make it even. Wait, is that a summoning cost that's twice as high as chapter 1? Oh boy. And it turns out that most levels were pretty much the same as World 2. I did play a bit differently and always saved my money first and then send out Hades, who mostly took care of everything for me. There were a few close calls here and there, and of course I had to get very lucky with treasure items again. In the end, I managed to make it to the last level. By the way things were going, I had a lot of confidence and just went in with my regular team that carried me throughout the challenge. Oh wow, I didn't even make it to the base.
Well, I'm sure that was just because I didn't send out my Uber. So I went back in with a Max wallet and tried again. It turns out that was it. With that, I was collecting money fast enough and was able to send out my Ubers. There he is, Teacher Bun Bun. He is by far the toughest opponent faced in Empire of Cats, with much higher health and pushing power than any previously encountered enemy. Due to his rapid speed, short range, area attacks, and high speed, he can and will destroy anything that enters his range. He is the reason why so many people stop playing Battle Cats. Now, getting to Moon 3 isn't that much of a challenge, but beating it, even with all treasures maxed out, is one hell of a challenge. And I'm doing it without any. My first attempt with the team that beat all the other 133 stages with ease wasn't even close to beating him. After all the damage he took, he still had 78% health left. I was far from done. For now, it was time to make a better team. You see, in Battle Cats, all enemies have a trait, and most cats have the ability to target or counter said trait. For example, Rocker Cat targets angel enemies and has the ability resist, so he takes less damage from angels. I hope that makes sense. Teacher Bun Bun has the trait floating, and for now I only had 2 cats that targeted floating on my team, Delinquent Cat and Hades. Delinquent Cat has the ability to freeze Bun Bun. I knew he was definitely gonna stay on the team. And Hades has Strong Against. Now remember Megidora? Yeah, of course you do. That was only a few minutes ago. Well, he knockbacks and slows floating. I knew he was going to be essential to defeating Bun Bun. I sadly had to get rid of Titan Cat, since Bun Bun basically one-shots him. I also had another anti-floating unit, which I got from my first tickets, Mercat. A Meteor with Strong Against Floating. He was also going to stay on the team. That was everything I had. I was going to have to do it with this team. During the time I